Scribes and scribal school, ancient Egypt, scribes. The ethical aspect of math gave rise to the social formation of groups of elite individuals called sesh, referring to intellectuals, scribes, or bureaucrats. Besides serving as the civil servant of the kingdom, the sesh had a central role in the society, since the ethical and moral concepts of math were further formulated, promoted, and maintained by these individuals. Scribes in particular held prestigious positions in ancient Egyptian society, as they were a primary means for the transmission of religious, political, and commercial information. Although few were formally literate, writing was an important part of citizens' lives in ancient Egypt, and scribes, for the large part, carried out literate functions for large masses of individuals. Since everyone was taxed, for example, their contributions were recorded by scribes. During periods of natural disasters, additionally, scribes worked on distant assignments, which were often in the form of letters. These letters were written and read by scribes for those who were not literate, which enabled communication with superiors and families. Written texts were often read aloud in public by scribes, who also wrote most of the letters, regardless of the sender's writing ability. Thus, scribes were involved in both writing and reading the letters. Since scribes read the letters out loud in public, they could not use the first person to present the king's voice. Thus, the texts were presented in the third-person grammatical structure. However, much of ancient Egyptian writing was symbolic and operated on a much deeper level than narratives might suggest. Religious concerns, as well as the hierarchical structure of ancient Egyptian society, created important distinctions between elite classes and everyone else. The political and ideological interests of the elite dominated and directed the majority of social and cultural life in ancient Egypt. Rhetoric has also been acknowledged as playing a role in the maintenance of social hierarchies, with its priorities of maintaining harmony and social order. Illiterate people had a priority to get scribes to their villages, because this procedure allowed the government to limit excessive abuses by pointing out the importance of the complaints of the poor. Scribal instructional texts emphasize fair treatment of all peoples and how anyone who abuses their power is subject to punishment. Although this procedure was regulated by the local government, it helped provide the poor with the feeling that their petitions were put before higher officials' requests. Although the main responsibility of scribes was to compose the work, transfer it, or communicate, some scribes added additional commentary. The scribe's role in judicial systems should also be taken into consideration. Local and insignificant crimes were usually led by a scribe or a foreman during the trial. Thoth was the patron of scribes, who is described as the one who reveals math and reckons math, who loves math and gives math to the doer of math. In texts such as the instruction of Ame Nehope, the scribe is urged to follow the precepts of math in his private life as well as his work. The exhortations to live according to math are such that these kinds of instructional texts have been described as math literature.